गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। हरिः ओम्। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवागंसस्तनूभिः यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ओम्। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। The five elements, they are connected to the five senses, and they are also related to the five chakras in our system. The earth element is related to smell, the water to taste, fire to sight, air to touch, and space to sound. And they also are related to the lower five chakras. The lower two elements, the earth and the water, are called the tamasic elements, the heavier elements. Their tendency is to move downwards, adhomukha. And when in the grip of these elements, there is a tendency to feel inertia, heaviness, contraction, shrinking, restriction. And if you look at these two elements, they have got limited ability to move around. They can be bound more easily. The fire and the air elements, they tend to rise up, and space encloses everything. Almost all animals are bound only by the lower two elements, which signify the lower two chakras. The lower two chakras stand for survival and procreation. These two qualities are governed mainly by nature. Unfortunately, a significant percentage of humanity is also stuck with only two chakras. To rise above this is called evolution, and to evolve you need to put some effort. When in the realm of mind, because the awareness is not something which is completely absent in the individual, depending on the degree of awareness you are established in, you rise sometimes and fall down. You are able to still have experiences of the beyond, but they do not stand for long. Yeah? So the fire element brings up the passion in you to go beyond the mundane, to go beyond the routine. You might have seen cows and sheep. They are happy to eat the same grass throughout their life. They don't get bored at all, because their life is controlled by nature. They haven't got a choice. They can't eat anything else if they want to. But for human beings, we have got a choice to say, what else can I do? Can I break through this? And that comes through the fire element. Activation of the fire element. And above that is the air element. Air element represents the skill. There is, it's not just enough for you to have a desire to break through. You need the skill to break through. You need to find how. The how of it comes through the air element, by attending to the air element. And the space element stands for contentment and peace. The more and more you work through these three elements, these three higher chakras, the more alive you feel in life. Otherwise, you feel like an animal, just like a python. Eat, sleep, and that's okay. Nothing more to do. Who bothers? And these two chakras also represent the two varnas, which is Asprishya and Shudra, they are called. We know that there is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Beneath the Shudra, there is another category of a super lethargic, that is called Asprishya. Somebody who is just bothered about survival. You give food to eat, that's good enough, nothing else. And a Vaishya is somebody who is just above that, who at least desires pleasure. A pleasure seeker is a Vaishya, is a Shudra. And then the fire element comes, the Vaishya, a profit seeker. I want to do something, I want to gain more, desire, greed, passion. And then above him comes Kshatriya, the skillful one, the powerful one. And the Brahmana represents the space, the contented one, the one who moves towards the spirit. Yeah. So the purpose of sadhana is to elevate ourselves from the lower elements and to engage in the higher elements. Yeah. And when you engage, the knowledge becomes direct. This Upanishads always encourage this direct realization. This is called as aparoksha jnana. You might have heard this word. We discussed this when we discussed the Tattva Bodha. When they say the quality of the enlightened, they describe one for whom the knowledge of the self is aparoksha, is not something heard from outside, it is direct realization. So, the three types of knowledge: pratyaksha, paroksha, and aparoksha. Pratyaksha is you see. Okay. Say, for example, you touch an ice cube and say this is cold. That is a pratyaksha, and your direct experience of it. You touch it and you see it. Or you see the sun and say, oh, that is the sun. That is a pratyaksha jnana. You are the seer. Paroksha jnana, paroksha jnana is an indirect knowledge. Like you know the structure of an atom. That is not your direct experience, but you heard about it. You heard that fire is hot, so that is a paroksha jnana. Once you touch the fire, it becomes pratyaksha jnana. Aparoksha jnana is a direct realization of something which goes beyond the senses. Like you meditated now and then you suddenly became aware, well, there is this life happening in the background all the time which I am missing. The moment you sit and say, okay, you are sitting in this room, you are sitting on the seat, but that was not in your awareness at all. Suddenly when you became aware, then you saw, oh, this is happening. Then all the small little things became very, very clear. A small sound, you became alert to it. So this is aparoksha jnana, something which is beyond the senses. You became aware of something which can't be comprehended by the senses, but by being in the moment. This is called aparoksha jnana. And this is how the self needs to be realized, by a direct realization. If you don't meditate, if you don't go through these processes, you just have a listen to the lecture, then it once again becomes an aparoksha jnana. You just listen to it, you just make a concept out of it. And this is how God is for most people in the world. God is a concept. Isn't it? You are conditioned to believing something is God and you hold on to it even now. You never had an experience of God. Yes, you might have had now. What I am saying is most people never even question that. Do you see what I mean? So it's important to go that's the beauty of Upanishads. It does not allow you, does not impose things on you. It encourages you to experience it. And the way to go to it is through the non-truth. Every Upanishad, when you ask what is the self, it speaks a lot about the non-self. And it takes you to the non-self and says, this is not the self. And then it says, what remains, that is it. Because it can't be directly pointed out. It has to be indirectly taken, you have to be indirectly taken there. And then you realize, oh, this was always there. The screen was always there, but the movie was constantly running, so you could never see the screen. The moment you become aware of the movie and the screen, then you will say the movie will stop. You could be able to see the screen behind the movie. That's when you came in contact with life itself. So it's very important. And then the terminology which we have heard before, and we just need to refresh because it comes in today's shlokas, is Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika and Adhyatmika. Adi Bhautika is the realm of the physicality, the gross body. Adi Daivika is the realm of the subtle, mainly the mind. Adhyatmika is the realm of the self, beyond the mind. Okay, so just keep these in awareness and then we will go into the shlokas. And before that, we need to another thing somebody was about the units of prana, which Gurudev mentioned yesterday. What is the need to know about that? The units indicate the dynamicity in the system. The earth element has 1 unit of prana, the water has 2, the fire has 3, air has 4, space has 5. And you will see that the higher the unit of prana, the more subtler it is, the more dynamic it is. The less restricted it becomes. Do you see this? The self is infinite, unlimited, and this unlimitedness comes from imbibing more and more of the energy in which you are in any way. This whole gross creation which you see is just a concentration of energy. Say for example, when 2 lines cross, a point is created. And if at the same point 1,000,000 lines cross, a lump is created. This body is like that, zillions and zillions of energy waves crossing each other in a particular pattern. You feel this form, what is called as a body. Because the energy forms are all packed together. When they don't need to be packed and they are expanded, that becomes space. That's why from the space, from beyond the space is what's called the Mahat. From the Purusha comes the Mahat. The Mahat is also called as the Hiranyagarbha, the cosmic mind, the space which you encounter when you sleep. From there comes the space. From the space comes air. From air comes fire. From fire comes water. From water comes earth. This is the science of the elements and how the elements play around. And the purpose of sadhana is to lift yourself from the elements that drag you down to the elements that elevate you. And then once you come to the highest element, the space, jump beyond it. Move beyond that element as well. Move beyond. So we were listening to this story last time. So this is an analogy. The analogy what was given, that the Devas, they won a war with the help of Brahman. But they did not acknowledge at that time or realize that it was Brahman who won the war. They thought, I won the war, we won the war, and they started to celebrate. It's the same with all of us. Anything you have got, it's a gift, isn't it? This body is a gift. Health is a gift. Your talents are a gift. Your wealth is a gift. Your disease is also a gift. But you think, I got it, I did it, I achieved it. And this is what has happened. The Devas stand up and say, oh, this is it. We have won over now. And just to make them realize, the Brahman appears in front of them like an yaksha, in the form of an yaksha. And then Indra, who is the god of the Devas, he first sends Agni, the fire god, find out who this person is. So he goes there and then that yaksha asks, who are you? And he says, I am the god of fire. I can burn anything down. So the Brahman keeps a small twig in front of him and says, burn this down. Whatever the fire god does, the Agni does, he is unable to burn that. So he comes back defeated and saying, I don't know who this Yaksha is. And then the air god, the Vayu, goes. He does the same thing, and with all his might, he is unable to blow away that small blade of grass or twig. So he comes back saying that I am unable to find out who this Yaksha is. So the sight and the touch is unable to understand or perceive the Brahman. You may experience the matter with them, but then it has to stop. That is the limitation of the senses. And then Indra had to go, the space had to go, the mind had to go there. And when Indra went there, that Yaksha disappeared. Indra also represents ego. That I am the lord of the elements. Everybody reports to me. I know. So when ego goes to encounter the Brahman with an arrogant attitude, it disappears. So in ego there is no place for knowledge. You need humility to attain to the Brahman. So he goes away, and in its place what appears is this, a glorious form of Uma, Devi appears. And then Indra asks Devi, who was this Yaksha who disappeared? So this is again analogy. When the prana is high, only then you are able to perceive. The Devi represents prana, Shakti. So when the mind is in the realm of high levels of prana, then only it is able to go beyond the limitation of the mind and realize the Brahman. Then the Devi says, that was Brahman. The victory was of Brahman, but you became famous. The person who did the work was Brahman, but the person who got the fame was you. Be aware of that. And then Indra realizes, oh, this was all the work of Brahman. And thus he realized Brahman. That's the story. Even Krishna tells in the Gita, Nimitta matram bhava savyasachin. He says, you are just an excuse. I am doing everything. You just sit and watch, and whatever glory comes, take it. But don't hesitate from action, because the action is happening through you, by me. Yeah? So this we need to realize. Now we look at some of the shlokas. So the Devi says, that was Brahman, the victory was of Brahman, you became famous by its contact with you, by your contact with that. And from her words, Indra realized it was Brahman. So the story goes out to say that because Agni, Vayu and Indra were the ones who went closest to the Brahman, they became the higher gods among the hierarchy, because they were the first to realize the Brahman. And among these three, Indra became much higher because he was the one who realized. Agni and Vayu went close but came back because they didn't realize. Indra was the one who went close. Once it disappeared, didn't give up, stood there, waited for his energy to come up, and once his prana was high, he then realized the Brahman. And here they say why the story was told. Tasya isha adesho yadetad vidyut vyadyutada iti nyami mishada iti adidaivatam. So Brahman cannot be directly taught you. You can only realize it directly, but it can only be taught by an analogy, by a story. And it is realized instantly, just like a flash of lightning illuminates everything. And just like in the blink of an eye, within that much time, you can realize the Brahman. When the moment of realization happens, it is instantaneous. And then in the realm of the mind, this realization is transitory, is fleeting. It is realized instantly, no doubt, but then it does not stay for long. This is common with us as well. As long as we live a mind dominated life, when we do our kriya, when we meditate, when we are in touch with knowledge, in some moments we feel this contact with the self, realization of the self. But when we slip back into the mind mode, when our awareness drops down, again we again drop back into the mind and becoming distant from the truth. And then how do you keep it sustained? अथ अध्यात्मं यदेतद् गच्छतीव च मनो अनेन च एतद् उपस्मरति अभीक्ष्णं संकल्पः. So to make it your continuous experience, you need to move beyond the mind at the level of the self. Adhyatma. Yadetad gachyataiva cha mano anena. Just make sure your mind always goes there. Your mind, instead of associating itself with the senses and the matter, it keeps on associating itself with the Brahman. Cha etad upasmarati, and remembers the proximity of itself to the self. Abhikshnam sankalpaha. Abhikshnam means continuous, uninterrupted. Sankalpa here means attention. With uninterrupted attention to the self, to the witness, and taking your mind always towards the spirit rather than towards the mind, which can happen at the realm beyond the senses, then you can move through the mind and reach this space which is beyond the mind. What? One, being mindful of your true existence. Two, by putting all your attention onto the spirit, onto the witness, and then realizing how close it is to you. The proximity, remembering again and again how close you are to that infinite source of your own existence. Through that, you can get established in knowledge. Yeah, initially it's just like a fleeting moment, but then slowly, again and again, once in an hour, once in a half an hour, develop these habits of mindfulness, the half a smile technique, becoming aware of the contact of your skin with your clothes or with the body, or the movement of the breath, and counting your breaths from 1 to 10 or 3, 4, how much ever you can, doing whatever you are doing, eyes open or eyes closed, and then by slowing down what you are doing. Slow down, and make all the movements you want. Whatever you are moving, put yourself through that. Put yourself through that. Yeah? And through this intense or continuous mindfulness attitude, it will become your second nature. So automatically you slip into the witnessing mode. Tadda tadvanam nama tadvanamiti upasitavyam saya etad evam vedabihi enam sarvani bhutani samavanchati. So Tadvanam, Gurudev was explaining this. Tadvanam means the adorable one. It also means the forest which houses everything. So the same self which permeates every being, every life, that is called as Tadvanam. So he says, call it as Tadvanam, the Brahman, and worship it as Tadvanam, that which permeates everything in this universe. Saya etad evam vedabhihi ye enam. So one who understands, one who realizes Brahman in this way, as that one principle which is in me and in everybody else, sarvani bhutani samvanchanti, means he becomes the adorable one. The Brahman is the adorable one, but one who realizes Brahman by seeing that one principle in everything, he himself becomes adorable, and everybody wants to be proxim, be close to him. So here they are dangling a carrot in front of you. Why you should be strong in your sadhana, why you should continue to move towards yourself, because you become the one who is loved by everybody, the one who wants to be with everybody, the one who is very popular. See, he will be adored by all beings. Sarvani bhutani samvanchanti. Upanishadam bho bruhi ityukta ta Upanishad brahmim vavata Upanishadam abrumeti. This is just bringing some sort of a conclusion to the story. After listening to this conversation, the student says, "Oh master, please tell me the Upanishad." And the master says, "What I told now, that is Upanishad. Anything that deals with Brahman, any conversation, discussion that makes an effort to explain Brahman, that is Upanishadam. That is Upanishad." So, in that sense, Upanishad has already been explained to you. Tasyai tapo damaha karmeti pratishta veda sarvangani satyam ayatanam. To attain to the Upanishad, to attain to the ultimate truth, you need to purify your faculties. You need to be clean and strong. So he gives these three things. Tapa is endurance, forbearance. Forbearance of what? Of the opposites. Being able to accept the opposites without resisting is tapas. We usually crave for the pleasant and resist the unpleasant. Tapas is accepting the unpleasant without resistance. Damaha, being able to say no to the senses. Enjoying the senses but not indulging in the senses. This is Damaha. This is another beautiful story. I don't know whether I've told this to you before. When initially Brahma created, he created everybody equal. All beings were created as devas, as enlightened beings. And then once the first generation went through and they were reborn again, depending upon what all actions they got involved, what type of karmas they accumulated, they became three different type of beings. The devas, the humans, and the asuras, the demons. So when Brahma went to address the second generation of beings who were already into three categories, he said, "Look, it was not my intention to make you into three different categories. This is self-created. You have done it to yourself. You are all given equal opportunity, but this is how some of you have used it. The one who used it to the best, they have been born again as devas. The one who didn't use it very well, they have been born as human beings. The ones who did not use it properly at all, they misused it, they have become asuras. But I tell you, all of you still have got the chance to come back to where you were and be happy. There is a tool for each one of you." And before he was able to say anything, he just started by saying "the." And then they all said, "We know what you are going to say." Brahma was very surprised. "Oh, even before I say, you know what's the answer." So he asked the Rakshasas, "What was I going to say?" The Rakshasa said, "Daya." So as an asura, as a demon, when you develop compassion, then you rise above your nature. Nature pulls you towards being a tamasic, cruel individual, but he says no. Through compassion you can rise above this quality. And the human said, Dana, being generous. The Rajasic character is to hold on, is to be greedy. When you rise above that by generosity, then you rise above that innate quality. And for the Devas it says Dhamma. You got everything in abundance, but you need to rein in yourself. By just indulging, you make yourself so dull and dull that you drop down. So these are the three qualities. For an asura, for a tamasic person, it is daya. For a rajasic person, it is dana. And for a sattvic person, it is dhamma. Just to make sure you hold on to that sattva so that it does not disappear from you. So here he says tapa, dhamma, karma. Karma here literally means discipline, an action with awareness, or what you can call as yajna, an action done with the intention of benefit for everybody with full awareness. These three things are prerequisites. Pratishta means the foundation, the pedestal on which you are able to realize the self. Vedas Sarvangani, the knowledge of the Vedas feeds you onto the real nature of existence. Satyam Ayatanam, and its house is truth. So these are the qualities of the Upanishads. What? To attain to the Upanishads, the abode of the Upanishad is truth. All Upanishads say is what is truth, what is untruth. The self is the only. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mityam. The ultimate truth is Brahman. So that which proclaims the truth is the Upanishad. And how does it do it? Through the Vedas. And to realize that, what do you need? Tapa, Dhamma and discipline, karma. These three things when you have with you, then it is easy to realize the Brahman. Yo va etam evam veda apahatya papamanam anante swarge loke jeye pratishtati pratitishhtati. Yo va etam evam veda. One who thus realizes Brahman through a guru, by purifying their faculties, by engaging in discipline, tapas and dhamma, by studying through the Vedas, one who realizes the truth like this, he is free from all the sins. Anante swarga loke jaye. And he stays established in the infinite heaven. Pratitishhtati. So usually in the Upanishads, no word is said more than it is required. Here to emphasize this fact, it is told twice. Pratitishhtati means one definitely gets established in the world of infinite bliss. Ananta swarge loke pratitishhtati. So this is the temptation for you to be in the knowledge, be in the sadhana, and to move more and more in awareness, of yourself, and move outside or away from the contact with the matter. Yeah, being with the matter, but withdrawing, being able to. So that's what the Indra said. Indra was with other elements, but then he withdrew from them and then associated himself with the prana. Only then he was able to realize the Brahman. So that completes the Upanishad. And any Upanishad, the whole Upanishad can be, in the first two shlokas of every Upanishad are very important. So we'll go back to the first two shlokas, which will tell the essence of this Upanishad. Kena Upanishad. What? Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha kena prana pratama praiti yuktaha keneshitam vachamimam vadanti chakshuhu shrotram kavu devo yunakti. Is the question which the disciple asks. So directed by whom does the mind spring into action? Does the thoughts arise in the mind? And directed by whom does the prana rise and impel you to take your first breath? And what directs my speech? What directs my vision? As well as all the others. Through what do I experience this world? Through the senses. Then the master says, Shrotrasya shrotram manasa mano yad vachoha vacham sau pranasya pranaha chakshushas chakshur atimuchya dhira pretya asmat lokat amrita bhavanti. That which is the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind, the speech of the speech, the prana of the prana, the eye of the eye. One who knows what this is, that dhira, that courageous one, that steadfast, courageous one, once he leaves this material world, Amrita Bhavanti becomes immortal. The material world is only in the past and the future because that's where the mind rests. In the present moment, you are untouched and you are immortal. The whole of the Upanishad is just bringing you back into this moment, here and now. This is where life is, this is where you exist as pure consciousness. As I am this life process that is happening. Yeah? All you need to do is just this one step, move from the matter towards the spirit. When you are with the matter, be aware that you are with the matter. Whenever possible, withdraw from the matter and be with the space. When you are with the matter, be mindful. When you got the chance to rise above the matter, relax into samadhi. Yeah, this is very important. Can't run away from matter, can't escape from matter. Your sadhana is only to purify your faculties so that you have this awareness in you to deal with the matter effectively. And then to rise above the matter. Through the mind, only you can move beyond the mind. You have to go through the limited intellect to realize that which is beyond the intellect, that which cannot be described by the intellect. And that is the presence. And that is what you are, what everyone is. And all the effort is just to be with it as long as you can, as much as you can. Yeah. See, even if you are understanding what we are telling now, that's a huge achievement in life. Even if you are just understanding what is being told, forget about experiencing it. And if you experience it for a few moments, that is even bigger achievement. And if you are able to come back to it again and again, I tell you, you are the top not 1% in the world, probably. Very few. Even the so-called godmen or holy people, they are still stuck in the matter in the world. It's very rare for somebody to have this insight into life and to be with it. And if you are able to get it when you are cooking, when you are cleaning, when you are driving, as a flash, this is it. And once this starts happening, know that you are there. All that you have to do is what? Keep your prana high. Keep your prana high, and then this becomes your nature. Yeah? Very good, very good. What is? Become aware. What is the mind of the mind, the ear of the ear, the sight of the sight? Yeah? Again and again and again. Very good, very good. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhat bhave. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.